Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. We are here. We still have a conference final to discuss. We'll definitely, I think we didn't get around to sort of doing a post-mortem on Vegas. So we'll take care of that today. But of course, we will start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, something interesting and weird going on with baseball. We'll talk about a few different things, but the first one that actually caught my eye today was they put out a schedule already for the Cactus League. And to me, it's like, how about you finish this season first, see what the virus is doing, and then maybe think about it for a month or two before you decide what you're going to do next time, because you didn't even know what to do this time. It took them months and months and months to figure out what to do. Like, this is just like Rob Manfred is so tone deaf to everything that's going on, and that's proof of it. It's just, I don't know why you would put out that schedule.
Okay, again, I don't think it's Manfred. I think it's the owners because
he has to guide the owners.
No. The owners run the show.
No, but not to that degree. There has to be a point where he says to the owners, look, we have to sort of look what the other leagues are doing. We're kind of embarrassing here. So speaking of embarrassing, and Jan and I talked about this offline. So they had to redo their list now of the teams that they're going to kill next year in minor league baseball because A, there wasn't any minor leagues this year, and B, they probably found out there were some other teams that killed themselves off that there's no bringing back. And so they did that. And like Jan and I noticed that Binghamton was on the list, Binghamton, New York. And I want to say they probably had baseball there 30, 40 years. The fact that they took that off in favor of like Syracuse, where the Wilpons just dumped money into a year ago and probably didn't get much out of it, just shows you all you need to know about minor league baseball and the Mets. There's a lot of good, organizations that are going to get killed in this offseason and never come back. And
there's a lot of organizations that have gotten killed already because of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
All of them have scrambled to come up with, I will call that, interesting alternatives or marketing opportunities to keep it going, right? So there's been some where they've actually had their chefs cooking.
Right.
And they've had people outdoors at the ballpark eating, and they've tried that as an option. Look, and that's what the minor leagues is, right? So I'm fortunate. There's independent league baseball half an hour from my house. Have I utilized it or not? No, but it's the Long Island Ducks, beautiful park, fits people. I mean, there's names that everybody's heard of because it's independent league baseball. They were hoping to have a season, and it got canceled, right? I've gone to see the Somerset Patriots down by you guys in Jersey, who are in the same league. It's, minor league baseball is I hate to say it, but it is a staple because there are people who, for lack of a major league team in their area, have adopted the players and the franchises that are there. And in essence, you're pulling the plug out from under them. And granted, they're franchisees, they're owned by the individuals, but please don't go with the rhetoric or the narrative that Major League Baseball couldn't support it or they needed to upgrade facilities. No offense. You've been printing money hand over fist for years. Here's about reinvesting part of it back into the thing that's the feeder system for everybody that comes up.
The weird thing is, too, with the Somerset Patriots, now the Yankees are looking to making that one of their locations, and that makes no sense to me because they already have Trenton. I get it'll be a different league, but you are going to pull from a lot of the same fans, and I believe if they start up Somerset, it will hurt Trenton's business.
You also have Staten Island, which is where
they're dead.
Brooklyn.
Staten Island's dead.
Right. Well, again, right. So the rumor is that Binghamton may end up in Brooklyn, right? Which is part of what the rumor is.
Right.
But you're cutting out. Look, the New York Penn League is a good league. I mean, it's been a league. It's been a league for years. You'd see a lot of first round draft picks go there as opposed to other places in rookie league, and it's a league that's existed for years. Now, granted, not that you shouldn't make changes, but you're getting rid of teams that don't necessarily need to be gotten rid of because you have a short-sighted mentality in terms of how you're supposed to fill the minor leagues down the road and who's supposed to own it and what the revenue is supposed to be. Like I said, pour money back into your feeder and your infrastructure system, and it will pay off down the road.
So one more thing. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I knew that like a team like the Yankees wouldn't be affected as much as teams that are more fiscally responsible. But when a team has multiple high A, rookie A, they were going to eliminate those franchises. I mean,
sure.
And with the Mets, it's like okay, yeah, they poured money into Syracuse. Syracuse used to be a AAA franchise with the Blue Jays that moved to Buffalo. So I think and I'm not saying that there isn't a tradition of baseball in Binghamton, but did they invest money in a new stadium or anything like that in Binghamton?
No, the stadium's beautiful. Like, you don't need to.
And you're also drawing from the college for several of the months, right? You have an immediate fan base there. The Binghamton Mets, the B Mets have been known. Like, for example, the Mets had it in Tidewater. That's where that's where David Wright became a fan of the Mets because he was from the area in Virginia. You had all those players. You had Zimmerman. You had Upton. They saw these players there, which built up their love for baseball. You now completely got rid of a team there, which didn't make sense. Now you've gone to Syracuse. Look, Toronto going to Buffalo made a lot of sense. Yeah, Syracuse is because the moron who are the Mets got rid of Tidewater and said, "Oh, let's move to Las Vegas."
Yeah.
Right. For 2 years. I mean, the other thing about Binghamton is, Mike, it does have a picturesque backdrop, maybe one of the best in minor league baseball. But here's the last thing. So the last thing about Manfred is on all places, Hofstra Radio, he comes out and says, hey, by the way, we're going to have fans in for, the LCS and the World Series. And when he mentioned that he's going to have teams play in California, again, I kind of think to myself, I get he's thinking about warmer weather. Yeah. I also don't get that he's thinking the air quality sucks and there's major fires going on there now, and you don't know when that's going to end. Why in the world are you going to have players play over there?
Well,
it's stupid.
From what I understand, I didn't understand the full scope of the playoff format. Apparently, for the first round will be whoever is the higher seed in the playoffs will be the host. So say it's the Yankees versus the Blue Jays. All 3 games would be in New York. Right. They wouldn't go back and forth. And then if it gets down to the final 4 in each league, it will be in Texas, not just Dallas or not just Arlington. But Dallas and Arlington and Houston in one league, and I think San Diego and
LA.
Right. Now, I'm sorry, and I know it's been mostly forgotten when it comes to this season because of COVID, because of everything right now. But how in good God's name are you rewarding the city of Houston and that friggin' franchise and giving them playoff games when they are the biggest?
You're doing it because they can be in the bubble, because it is a dome stadium, because first of all, you want to rip the organization, that's fine. I'm not sure you can rip the city because of what the team
he's not ripping
city did.
He's ripping the organization.
Again, he's doing it because there's a dome in that location, and you don't have to worry about rainouts or anything else.
They don't deserve to profit off of this, Jan. They don't.
I agree with you, but again, location-wise, that's why they did it. First of all, you can go from Arlington to Houston. It's not that huge of a trip to begin with, and you have 2 dome stadiums. You have 2 dome stadiums that are there in the same relative vicinity.
Well, I see. I thought that they were using the reason they chose Arlington was because they were going to use the old ballpark at Arlington and the new ballpark. But apparently, I guess they're only using the new one, and then they were using Houston as well. I mean, they should not be rewarded, and this is
they shouldn't. I agree with that. I would not rip the city. I mean, I lived there.
I'm not ripping
we're ripping the franchise, and that's
fine, and you have every right to do so. Look, you're right also on the LA and San Diego, right? I guess it probably would have been better to say tentative, depending on what location, and then say, hey, if we need an alternate, here's what we're going to. You could probably have you can probably almost try to have everybody down in Texas if we need an alternate.
Right.
Or you could try Arizona. You can play the games. You can play the games because there's a dome stadium there also.
I mean, the temperatures in Arizona in September are more mild.
Right, but you're playing indoors anyway, so who cares?
It just seemed weird that they're going to choose out there, and we already know that there's a problem with air quality.
Well, the thing is that
those stadiums aren't domed.
Most of the problem with air quality is in Northern California, blowing up to Oregon and Washington. In Southern California, it's not as bad, but you don't know what's going to happen.
Right, given what we've seen in Southern California with the fires in the past.
Right.
Right.
All right. Let's get started here. I'll hold off on talking about the game last night and talk about the signing from yesterday. We'll get started with that. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, September 16th, 2020.
I'm Jan Levine, and Michael Jello didn't have to look at a calendar to get the day right.
That's a total rip on Eck. Poor Eck. I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm
you drew blood there, Jan. I didn't.
I was I wrong?
No.
Okay.
And I'm the calendar-attuned Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, let's start with this. Like I said, we'll talk about Islanders Lightning when Eck joins the show in a few minutes. Big signing yesterday, and I think sort of an indicator of where things are going financially in the league. Jonas Brodin, who's been a long-time Minnesota, first-round pick of the Wild, long-time Wild player, solid two-way defenseman, not particularly, great offensively, but adequate, but mostly a two-way defenseman, very responsible defensively. He signs a 7-year extension yesterday. He's got a year left in his contract, making about $4.1 million. It's around the same amount that for Edmonton,
Nurse?
Adam Larson.
Okay.
Yeah, same amount that Larson's making, and I think he's a better defenseman than Larson. But now he's going to be making $6 million AAV over 7 years. No signing bonuses in this deal. And Russ, if you look at this contract, I think it's reflective of the new normal when it comes to the league in terms of salaries, because if he hits free agency next year, I think probably the realization from Brodin's agent is that he's probably not going to get – he may get $6 million, but he's not going to get term, and he gets the term with the team that he's been with. But it's very friendly. It's not signing bonus. It's all regular salary, and the regular salary is subject to the 20% escrow or whatever escrow is going to be. And this type of deal, especially for players who want to stay with the teams that they're at right now, it's a home. I think it's a home run for the Wild.
Yeah, it is, because I also feel like he's probably being underutilized a little, because he averages just over 20, 21 minutes. He probably could take away some of those minutes from Suter, or if they were to trade Dumba, he could take some more of those minutes. So he has some room to grow. He's 27, so that's good. He's always among the top shot blockers in the league. Very few turnovers. This is a really good signing. Guy's a good puck mover. He eats minutes. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. The signing bonus part, though, is the part that's going to come back and haunt the players, though, because, the players always want to say, hey, we don't like escrow. We don't like this. We don't like that. Right. And at the end of the day, the owners are going to be like, hey, we're not really making money right now, so your signing bonuses aren't going to happen on your next deals, just so you know.
Now, Jan, I think, and we're talking about the Brodin contract because we wanted to save the game for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Jan, the thing that immediately sprung to mind, and it wasn't an exclusive thought on my mind because a number of people started talking about the same thing. You've got Spurgeon. You've signed to a long-term extension. You've got 5 more years of Ryan Suter, and I believe he has a no-move clause. Now you've signed Brodin. The guy who has the shortest term is Dumba. And they can only protect 3 defensemen unless they protect 8 skaters in the expansion draft next June. To my mind, I think Dumba's going to get traded. What do you thought? What are your thoughts?
If you're going to go with the guy with the lowest term in terms of number of years, yeah, I mean, he makes sense. You can't really expose the others. First, it depends on the no movement clause for all of them, and that's has to be a factor. I believe Suter has one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
You don't necessarily have to go, though. If I remember correctly, you don't have to go 7-3-1 though directly, right? You have a second option. You can
go 8-1, yeah.
8-1.
So,
8 skaters and 1.
But the problem is they have a bunch of guys with, I think, no movement clauses also in their deals that create some difficulty. I think Parisi has to be protected. If you remember, Zuccarello has to be protected. It's a fairly decent list of players that need to be protected. Look, if you go to war with those top 4 defensemen, it's a pretty darn good top 4.
Yeah,
irrespective of whether or not you're going to make another move or not. But the no movement clauses are clearly going to be the driving factor as to what direction you're going to go in.
Yeah, Spurgeon, Suter, Brodin all have no move clauses, and you're right, Parise and Zuccarello.
Right, so that's 5 right there. Yeah. The other question is you'd have to look to see, okay, who else would they protect? I mean, Stahl you don't have to protect because he expired. I mean, if you look at the way their team is constructed right now, Parise signed through 24-25. Zuccarello signed through 23-24. Rask, who I think they're going to expose because it's Victor Rask.
Oh, yeah, no,
when you get beyond that, right, you're going to probably protect Fiala because he's an RFA. You're going to try to re-sign him. Donato, you're going to try to re-sign, right?
Yeah, he'll be protected too.
Kaprizov, because of the way his deal works, although
He's exempt.
Russ, that's
He's
just
exempt.
year 2. He should be exempt, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he's exempt.
Yeah.
Right? So then you have Spurgeon, Suter, Dumba, Brodin. Dubnik's in the UFA, but you're going to protect Stalock, and you're going to have to find somebody else. They could actually go with 8-1, Mike. There is the possibility, based upon the way it lines up, you could go 8-1, depending on who else you protect and how else you have to protect them.
Yeah, if you protect Fiala and I'd say like an Eriksson,
Donato probably.
Donato, I think.
Eriksson or Donato or Kunnin, probably Kunnin.
Yep.
And you could go with 8. Now the thing is, you risk losing a Greenway or you risk losing an Eriksson.
There are risks, right? So they're either, if they don't move Dumba, that's the strategy in which they're going to have to go. And unless the viewpoint is because I don't think Spurgeon has an NMC. You could say
no, he does.
He does. Okay, so you're kind of boxed yourself into the corner there, right? So you're probably going to have to go Dumba. But look, Dumba's going to bring a healthy return if, based upon what you saw in the playoffs, that's the Dumba you're going to see, which was the Dumba we saw 2 years ago, as opposed to the guy this year who had some difficulties during the season.
Now, I saw something yesterday, and I don't know if it was based on rumor or if it was just based on a wishful thinking on the part of somebody from TSN out of Vancouver. But if you think about this as a 1-for-1 deal, it makes a ton of sense.
Okay.
And the fact that the Canucks are needing to upgrade their blue line and probably don't want to get into a bidding war in free agency, and they have a excess of talented offensive forwards. Besser for Dumba, and Besser is from Minnesota and has a contract around the same amount as Dumba for I think another year or 2, and that deal makes a ton of sense.
I don't know. I mean, I like Dumba, but I don't think he's in Brock Besser's category.
Oh, I do. I mean, he's a power play guy.
I mean, a lot of people do. I don't. I just don't. I don't. Go ahead, Russ. Explain why.
No, I do. I mean, he's a power play guy. He's a physical guy. He's actually last couple of years been really good. Yeah. Pretty much what I thought he would be. Like, he's turning into that guy. I get Besser's a higher end goal scoring type, right. But at the end of the day, what could hold us up is Vancouver's going to have to re-sign Dumba, and they're not going to want to pay market value in a couple of years.
Right.
They've got 2 years. They
got 3 years though if they make that deal, right? So
yeah, they have 3 years. Which is 3 years.
Besser's 2 more years at 5.87, and Dumba's 3 more years at 6.
Oh, it's 3. I thought you said 2. Okay,
3.
For 3, I think they would do it.
Yeah.
Plus, by that point in time, the cap will expect to rise a little bit at the end of those 3 years, right? You're flat 2 years, you go up $1 million the next year, and then you may have a rise the year after that, depending on what revenues are.
Right.
It's possible. I mean, I think that Besser is just too important of a player for them in Vancouver to make that move.
I don't know if he is anymore, and that's not to say he's not a great player, because I love Brock Besser, but I do see this shift where I'm not sure they feel that same way about him, and it might be because of the injuries.
And it could be because I think they probably want to re-sign Toffoli because the way Toffoli played there, and probably think they can get Toffoli for less than they're paying Besser right now. Now, don't get me wrong, Besser's 23 years old, and I think more talented than Toffoli. But I do think that they see, in terms of the way the team is constructed, they've got those good young offensive players already on the roster in Pettersson and guys, is it Höglander and a few others that they
Niels Höglander is real good.
Yeah, I mean they see the young offensive talent coming there, and maybe they think they can. It's a luxury that they can afford to give up to improve their defense, because their defense, with Tanev leaving, with Edler probably 1 year away from retirement.
I'll tell you what, too, from the Vancouver standpoint, if you put Dumba back there, he'll get back to 50 points. Like, there's no question in my mind.
Yeah, no, I mean he's got a howitzer
of a shot.
I mean, there's a bunch of teams. There's a lot of teams. Obviously, they're interested in him, right? So he's not.
Well,
Dumba has interest out there, and he really does.
I think Toronto would be among those teams because he's a top 4 right-hand shot defenseman.
They are,
and if they are, then the logical connection there is Nylander, because the Nylander makes a little more than Dumba, and we know that Minnesota. Their Kaprizov is coming, but Koivu is probably not coming back. And offensively, I think that they need a centerpiece type guy that Nylander could be there.
This is what Eck will know. If I remember correctly, and I'm not sure, it seems like when Guerin was with Pittsburgh, they didn't want Nylander. I think they kind of looked at it and didn't want him when he was holding out. Eck, what was your feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a bet. It was obviously, I mean, Guerin had, I know Pittsburgh had issues, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to jump on it and say that Guerin was part of that yet. I haven't really heard that he was. I mean, obviously he's there at the time, but not running the show.
Right.
Guerin has shown a lot of really good initiative, I think, on seeing things. And that was a while ago. I mean, it's possible. I think Besser's a way better fit for them than Nylander. If you're going to go between the two of them, I'm not saying I think they would go for Besser quicker than they go for Nylander. You got to figure this though. The weak area for the Wild right now is up the middle with Koivu likely not back. Victor Rask has been a disaster since they traded for him. Nylander can play center. Is he an NHL center? Yes. Is he a good NHL center? Maybe, maybe not. But he's offensively good enough as a playmaker that for a team like Minnesota, who's got a hole there, he could be their number 1 or number 2 center as a stopgap. But I've heard Nugent Hopkins involved in the Dumba trade. Not like straight up Nugent Hopkins for Dumba, but I've heard that name mentioned at Edmonton. Now I think that
the only thing is they're going to have to sign Nugent Hopkins.
Right. I mean, the issue that's of course that signing is a huge issue, but the other issue here is moving him within the conference, which I think they'd rather not do. I think that's one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Give Toronto an advantage over that, and I'm not, he's not like, you're not talking about Wayne Gretzky here, but you're talking about a player that you don't want to necessarily move in your conference. He's going to be a good player.
Now,
I mean, Ottawa is interested in him too. I don't know what Ottawa could offer up, but I think Ottawa could offer up some younger players that would help them salary cap wise.
Brandstrom.
Or draft picks, because if Minnesota is looking to get out of under the salary cap to move. Do you think Philadelphia makes any sense for Dumba?
No, I don't. I think
they're looking forward all the way.
Yeah, I think because of the way their defense is sort of shaping up and it's mainly young, I think that if Fletcher goes back to Dumba, then all those stories about Fletcher saving Dumba and basically giving all those guys for free to Vegas will follow him, and especially with another draft, with another expansion draft coming up, I think Fletcher's going to want to stay away from that. Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I think there's some baggage there, and I think he should stay away from it. Not that Dumba wouldn't be a good fit there, but again, he's a good fit anywhere. I mean, he's not going to be your top power play guy, right? And you don't want Dumba unless he's your top power play guy, honestly. Yeah, and Philly, you have that kind of filled up.
Dumba, Gostisbehere type of I mean, on top of
I don't think Guerin would want any part of Gostisbehere.
Not sure about that. I mean, there's I have talked to.
He's got all
the USA Hockey has a little bit of a different opinion on Gostisbehere.
Okay, maybe USA Hockey does, but from what I see that Guerin has liked and has on the blue line, everybody does their fair share of physical work, and Gostisbehere does none of that.
Let's just say that
that would be the issue, I think.
Yeah, I get that.
Let's just say that the sweetener in that deal on top of Gostisbehere is going to have to be something really good.
Yeah,
It would have to be a Farabee or like somebody that they don't particularly want to give up, but it had somebody.
Some team will take a chance on Gostisbehere, like Kazek said. He's a fast skating defenseman, but the only issue is, besides his shot, missing the net more than you'd like, the confidence isn't there when he gets into the offensive zone anymore. He's not as confident as he once was, and that's a problem. That I don't know how quickly he'll get that back.
I could really see Florida going after Gostisbehere in a big way, and not just because usually I'm like against signing a guy just because they're from the area or whatever.
Right.
But I think in Florida's case, it would be a really strong PR move, and just in general, like to get there. He is the kind of kid that I think if you gave him the right start and the confidence again, he could be effective for you. And
I just don't know what the fit is in terms of what would come back.
I think the Flyers aren't going to get as much like in terms of actual known value. That I think it's going to be more in terms of
I'll give you an example, Mike. Maybe they give him Owen Tippett and they say, all right, you know what, he's not in our plans. We'll give you Owen Tippett. And I think the Flyers would take it because Owen Tippett has a hell of a shot. And he would get an opportunity on the bottom 6 with the Flyers. Yep. And you never know.
And Zito's not married to him because he didn't draft him. It's a previous.
Yeah, and I think seeing the confidence and seeing the positivity, and and then you make him part of your community outreach. Gostisbehere likes that kind of stuff. Like Gostisbehere needs to be more involved. Like the thing with Philadelphia, I felt like he got he was better when he was like a focal point and when he was more involved. And because he can be a positive. The thing about his attitude is when he's confident, he's actually a very positive locker room influence. Which when he's not confident, he's not at all. So there are players like that, but he's one of those guys. And I think that. I do think there's hope for Gostisbehere out there. I do think it has to be someplace else besides Philadelphia. I definitely agree with that. But I think there's hope for that. I want to talk about Just for Fast, guys. We've talked about it before, and
sure.
One of the reasons I was late getting into the show today was I was talking to two people about him, trying to come up with what the deal is, and what the Rangers. Because I read all different kinds of reports, and what are your opinions on this, Dan? First, we'll start with you first on Jesper Fast.
Well, I mean, I've been a big proponent of bringing him back, right? The problem is going to be salary. I mean, that's kind of the end all and be all, right? So 3 years, he made $1.85 million last year. He's probably going to get somewhere in the $2.5 to $3 million this year, even in a flat cap. The problem is with all the other guys they have to bring back, especially with Lundqvist. They have to figure out what they're doing with Lundqvist. With him apparently not interested in retiring, which means you're either buying him out, which only saves you enough money to re-sign Alexander Gordiev, or you're going to have to try to eat half the contract, which only frees up an additional $1 million worth of room. You're not going to have a ton of room, especially depending on what you do with D'Angelo and with Strome and with the other guys you have on your team. You have to try to re-sign Brendan Lemieux, which isn't going to do a ton of money. So I would love Fast back. I mean, I know you posted a couple of things. A team I'd look out for, which had been rumored for him, is Nashville, which has been a team that supposedly has had substantive interest in him in the past. But
they have.
I'm one of those guys. Fast, I hate to refer to it, is the Rangers version of the Swedish version of a Swiss Army knife, right? You can put him up and down the lineup.
Yeah,
you can get anywhere from second to fourth line. He's better suited on the third and fourth line, better suited in the checker line role. He can score. Russ has talked about in the past how he can play the power play overseas and in the minors he played the power play. He's a guy also who's a mainstay on your penalty kill. He fills up and down the lineup. He's a guy you don't realize how valuable he is until he's no longer there. The problem is in a flat cap with a lack of available room, he may get squeezed out depending on who else they bring back.
Yeah, I'll say it like this, Ek. I think Fast is to the Rangers like Kazikis is to the Islanders, and I don't think the Rangers can afford to lose Fast. I think they should lose Ryan Strome because I think Ryan Strome lived off of Panarin, and I would just make a trade for that. Ryan Strome is a tradable commodity. Trade him while his value is highest it's ever going to be, but bring back Fast because the penalty killing, he can fill in anywhere. And like I said, he can play the power play. He's loved in the locker room. He probably can give you more than what we're even seeing because a lot of times he doesn't even get used to line mates. He's changing lines so frequently. So I
that's
think
really
they should bring him back.
You kind of nailed it there because there's a lot more positivity about this guy around the league.
Oh yeah.
Than people realize. And when you talk around when you're talking about UFAs, I can't tell you how many people have said, well, the guy you're not talking about enough. If people really need to is Jesper Fast. And I'm like, well, I see him as a third liner, like kind of like what you're saying, Jan, like an ideal third liner. Like, we kind of see him as like a second liner, and we see, it
could be
ability
the first thing you do if you're Jeff Gorton is buy out the final year of Brendan Smith's deal. Where you save $1.5 million on the cap with the buyout, and that's probably I don't know 60% of what you'd have to pay Frost on a new deal, and then you don't have any problems the following year when Lundqvist and Stahl's contract expires. So I mean, right now it's simply a question of how you fit in everything this year with the RFAs that you have.
See, that's the other thing, Dan. If you're the GM of the Rangers now, or Russ, you guys are co-GMs, and I come to you and I'm just for Fast agent, and I'm telling you that I have a team out there that's willing to give him $4 million a year for 3 years.
You're probably letting him walk.
You're probably letting him walk, right? Yeah, because
in my opinion, that's probably a little overvalued where he should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally you'd want 3. I still don't think they should walk from him because again, I do think they are going to have a harder time filling his role than a lot of other roles because we saw what they look like without him. Like we did see and maybe the coach made too much out of it, but even Quinn knows his worth.
It really that got around, like that.
Of course, it got around because that was a big statement.
They were making a big deal of it. They should, in a way that they think Quinn kind of messed up there in a way. Because when other people see a coach that big on a player, in a situation like that's a UFA like this, like I think that 3 teams I've heard that will drive his price up: Montreal, Nashville, like you mentioned, and Philadelphia. And I was surprised to hear Philadelphia would drive his price up, but that
drive his price up, but would they take him? Like
he's going to get to $4 million a year, I think. Because
no, he's not. No,
that's what they're saying. I mean,
I don't think he will. Not in this market. I don't think he will. I think
I have heard that Montreal is willing to go to $4 million a year for him.
Montreal won't even go $4 million a year for. No, they won't do that.
I mean, see, again, if that is the truth, that's another example of mismanagement on the part of Mark Bergevin.
We can judge that all you want to, but it is what.
No, I'm sure that's what you're hearing, but I don't until I see it signed. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm not disputing the report. I'm disputing the sanity. Because, I mean, if they're going on...
that's what we're here for. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. That's the job of our show, is to dispute the sanity. I'm 100% behind you there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm bringing it up the way I'm bringing it up, because, like, I know we're talking like Russ, you're like saying, you still should probably maybe keep it if they get to $4 million.
Heck, tell me how many forwards are making $4 million or more on the Montreal Canadiens currently.
I don't even know,
Two.
Yeah, and all we know is, I mean, obviously Montreal, that's what they're going to do. They're going
to 2 guys. Why in the world are they going to pick up a guy now and make him their 3rd highest paid forward? They're not going to do it.
3rd highest paid forward as they stand now.
They're balking at renegotiating a contract with Max Domi when Max Domi scored 70 points last year. So. Yeah.
But they're going to. I mean, they're balking at it, but that's a negotiation. I mean,
this is the issue, and I think Jesper Fast is the poster boy for sort of the tweener forward. Not, he's not a star, but he's a really good player. He's a second, third line guy, and we know with the cap staying flat at 81.5 for the next year to 2 to maybe 3 years, that's the area of these teams that's getting squeezed. You're not going to see these guys getting long-term deals making $3 million, $3.5 million. They're either going to take a 1-year deal like that, or they're going to take less to stay where they are. So
I'll go one further. I'll go one further. Okay. If you pay Fast 4, you have now raised the price for yourself on Gallagher and Tatar. You have just killed. They would be the happiest guys on earth if they brought in Fast for 4 because of the kind of numbers they put up and what they do. Boy, they would. All of a sudden, you're raising their salaries.
Montreal's got to hand out a lot of raises, right? I mean, when you sit there and you say, "Yeah, these guys got 2 players," at that now. Yeah, they're not going to have 2 players at that soon. I mean that. No team in the NHL, especially a team of that stature, stays with that kind of salary structure.
And more than likely, if Montreal is going to Montreal will end up trading for existing contracts rather than bidding in free agency for guys like Fast, because they could be sending players out to bring those players in, and there's cost certainty there. They don't want to get into a bidding war, especially for a player. And I like Fast. I think he's a very effective, like I said, second, third line guy who can penalty kill. Russ, I think, thinks he can play the power play. The last thing that the Canadiens want to do is bid $4 million on a guy who's a middle of the road player.
I do want to answer Joe Morello because he said Fast is not Casey Cizikas. Not even close. I don't watch. Go ask Coach Quinn. See what he thinks.
Yeah, I actually like Fast better, to be honest. I mean, I like both of them a ton.
I like them both.
I'm not gonna say, but if I was just if I was picking sides and I had my team to pick, I actually would think Fast does a little bit more. I mean, Cizikas might do some things a little bit better, but I think Fast does a little bit more.
I think Cizikas is greasier, and I think Fast has a better offensive side.
Yeah, and
they're 2 different.
And the way he plays his positioning and penalty killing, there's certain things he does that are very, very good.
Yeah,
and that remind you a little bit of like your typical kind of like I don't know, like raffle type player, on the Flyers, but not. But better, more offensive upside.
Both teams, when they don't have the players, lose something. Like when the Islanders don't have Cizikas, they lose something. When the Rangers don't have Fast, they've lost something.
It's
like Raffle.
They're 2 completely different style of players. First of all, I think offensively, Fast has more offensive talent. Cizikas brings more of a physical game that Fast doesn't have based upon his style of play. They're both effective. Cizikas as a center clearly has some value as well. Look. You're talking to a guy who's loved Fast. I've been saying for years.
Yeah, I know.
He's an underrated guy on that team. He's the guy who was a defensive ballast on the Panarin-Strome line this year that enabled them to go a little bit, and they took off when that trio got put together, partly because Fast ended up covering for some of the defensive deficiencies that Strome still has, right? So I've been one of those who wanted to bring him back. The problem is last year, as good of a job as Jeff Gordon's done, not moving Vladislav Nemesnikov before the season started and freeing up at least $1 million more of room. Now you would have been able to sign D'Angelo last year for probably a 2-year deal at $1.5 million, $1.75 million, saving yourself $4 million or so if you decide to keep him. That's the one piece of the puzzle where he screwed up last year.
He screwed up on the dead cap space too. That's
here's
the up on the dead cap space.
Well, what are we going to do about dead cap space? Who are you not going to? I mean, there's not much you could have done about that.
See,
Shattenkirk took less.
You didn't have to buy him out. You could have traded him. You did not have to buy him out. Clearly, a lot of teams would have.
Nobody was paying him that kind of money. He's making $1.5 million.
And you eat some of the money, but you don't have the dead cap space. They absolutely could have.
Nobody wanted him at that price.
No, at that price, yes. That's why I said you could eat some of that, but you had dead cap space is now doubly bad based on what the cap is like this year. That was a bad move. It was a bad move then. It's going to be a bad move this year for him.
Okay, one thing. Do me a favor, Funky. You can call me a Ranger bias if you've ever read my blogs. I am probably the most guy there is. And I'm not necessarily saying it from a Ranger perspective. I also said I love Cizikas, and that fourth line is really that third line. Different style of play, different style of talent.
Right, but they mean the same thing to each team.
Correct.
That's my point.
And what's Cizikas making?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I'll check it. Hold on.
275.
Yeah,
is making 335.
Right, that's not $4 million a year.
It's not $4 million a year, but it's a contract that was signed.
Which also ends up with a little bit of an increase because you're a center as opposed to a winger.
Yeah, and you're also looking at a contract that was signed then.
Right.
A new contract's going to, I know flat cap is going to
then as you said, you factored in the increase in the cap. Now, for this year, the following year is flat, and you get $1 million increase, which in essence is kind of flat. It's 3 years you know that you're not having a budge.
Well,
I'm going to answer one more question.
One thing to this that's like.
Hang on, let me answer one more question because he's asking where's Chaika going, Michael Cohen. I don't think Chaika will be hired.
Nowhere.
Not for a while.
Not anywhere yet. No,
he's not getting a job this year.
No, not for a while. And here's the thing: the bigger picture on this whole thing, right? And this is right now, as things are starting to come into focus for this free agent period. My head, it's hard to wrap my head around there's so many elements. Like I have more players on the rumor chart than I've ever had on the rumor chart right now. There's a lot of different things happening, and it's not like we have we have Taylor Hall out there who is a big player, but there's not. Most of these players are second and third liners, and that's pretty common right now. And the interesting thing is, you really are looking at a free agent period of teams looking for $3 to $4 million players, as opposed, and maybe two of them as opposed to one, $7 million player like in the past.
See, I actually think that they're looking for players like middle of the roster players, but they're not going to be willing to pay them $3 or $4 million.
I mean, it depends what they have. I mean, some teams don't have it, but but the idea here is like you're going to see a lot more of these kind of difficult to understand. You're going to see contracts that you're going to be like, why is that guy getting 2 and not 4? And you're going to see contracts where you're going to say, why is that guy getting 4 and not 2? There's a lot of there's a lot of that kind of variable. Who likes who? Like it depends on how much. Like if Montreal's in love with him, Nashville's always liked him. The Flyers see him as a good fit, but they might just be involved in it to maybe try to.
Yeah, I don't know if the Flyers can afford him, Eck. I mean, they're gonna lose some salaries, and they're gonna have to rehire Brian Elliott, and Elliott's not going to come in as cheap as he was. They're going to have some.
I've tried to. I mean, believe me, I asked the same question. How are they going to afford them? I don't know either.
Let's say this. I don't think you're going to see Wayne Simmons or the equivalent of Wayne Simmons getting a 1-year, $5 million contract.
No, nothing close. No,
you're a player like that who's in his early 30s, who's looking for a restart, could go someplace for a year, but that cap hit. And remember, New Jersey did it to get to the cap floor. More than likely, that type of player at that spot in his career is getting $1.5 million to $2 million.
I mean, the Devils gave Wayne Simmons a retirement gift. They did.
You're looking at what Jason Spezza did last year, where a player comes in and takes a little bit because he's already made his money and he wants to play there. That's what you're going to see, I think, and you're going to see more. I think you will see more of that because you have guys who've made money. And you have guys now, and also if they're from an area too, with the pandemic going on, with maybe they have parents that are in that area. There's a benefit to going. I'm going to go play in Toronto because I want to take care of people
I wrote about this yesterday about the Stars. Corey Perry gets bought out by Anaheim. Sekera gets bought out by Edmonton. They both took 1 year, $1.5 million contracts with bonuses.
Yeah.
They won't. Those players won't get $1.5 million. They'll probably get $1 million this year. But the thought process is the same. Let's go to a team that we think can win. Let's go to a place where it's not unpleasant to live, or someplace that's home.
Right, or a home where you can raise your kids, or you have a good friend on the team. Like, there's certain things that are definitely out there, that are factors right now. And and along those lines, Johnny Gaudreau, whose name comes up again today, because when I started this, about a month and a half ago, I was like, yeah, Johnny Gaudreau rumors all the time. That's every year, got Johnny Gaudreau. Now I'm talking to people in Calgary. I talked to somebody in Calgary, like one of my top guys in Calgary who I've been dealing with for years and who is just really dead on, flat out told me they have to trade Johnny Gaudreau, which I was
okay, and that's fair. I mean,
saying you have to trade Johnny Gaudreau,
right?
I
so they know they can't sign him.
Different levels of things, having to trade a guy, that's like.
Well, they know they can't sign him. I think that's why.
And it's ironic that Jeff Ward, who was interviewed on Fan 590 yesterday, when asked about Gaudreau, he says, and he was basically effusive in his praise of him, saying that there's a misunderstanding out there about him sort of being low key and his effort isn't the greatest and this and that. I mean, which could be very true. It also could be them trying to knock down some of this chatter so they can get more in a trade for him. So I mean,
it's beyond Ward, to a degree. Like I think at this point, I think Ward is going to Ward knows that Gaudreau has a certain popularity among his teammates and stuff like that, and he's going to say good things about Gaudreau. And I'm not saying you shouldn't say good things about Gaudreau, but he is. I think this goes beyond. This is way more of an organizational top down thing.
Breaking news, and then we should talk about the game last night. Elliot Friedman reporting. It's confirmed that Bill Armstrong, I believe the younger brother of Doug Armstrong, the GM of the St. Louis, who was assistant GM, is the new GM of the Arizona Coyotes.
That's awesome. Like, I've interviewed Bill
a
bunch of times. Yeah. He's such a good guy. There was one time where we were interviewing him, and he even told us ahead of time, he goes, look, I'm going through the airport scanner. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. So we interview him. He talks about two players. He went through the scanner. He goes, look, should I shut it off? I'll call you back. And we were like, no, just leave it on, and we'll wait for you. He left it on. The minute he got through the scanner, he picked up the phone, and he continued his spot. Now, we were taping. We weren't live. But it's amazing that he was willing to do that while he was going somewhere else to scout, but that's the kind of guy he is. Yeah,
no, and
he's smart.
It's been a while since we've had brother GMs right in the the too. That's but I guess the Murrays, right?
Really got his work cut out for him right now.
Tim was Brian Murray's nephew.
Nephew, right? Not brother, right? Yeah. And Bob Murray how's Bob Murray related to all that stuff?
I don't think he is related.
No, he's not related to the other Murrays.
Terry Murray, Brian Murray, Tim Murray.
Okay, they're all part of the same family. Got it. And Bob Murray's a different family.
No.
Anyway, So let's get into the games though last night. And I'm really, and obviously this is another Bill. We had Bill Guerin, Bill Zito, Bill Armstrong. How a Bill becomes a GM is would be my blog title if I was writing about this.
Bill Torrey.
We've really seen a run on. Yeah. Right. All right. Let's move on to the game last night. And Russ, and I know we called it. It was just I should have said it because every time I've guaranteed it, it's been true, but I couldn't guarantee it. I was not there.
But they put me on the spot on Sirius too. I did my weekly spot, and I said the Islanders were going to win. I just felt it. I just felt like Trotz wasn't going to go down like that. It doesn't mean they're going to win the next game. But you knew you were going to get a good effort. You did. And you knew with Point not there that it would put a lot of pressure on Kucherov. And to be honest, he wilted. Like Kucherov is basically Varlamov is in Kucherov's head now because I've never seen him blow up on the bench that many times, almost at a referee for a goal that never even was close to happening and went off the side of the net. He lost it yesterday.
How about, though? What about the fact that he played more minutes in the third period than Hedman?
Well, because they was trying desperately to get him started, and the more he failed, the worse the frustration got. He was completely frustrated.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And there were some post hit. The Islanders played hard. I thought the Islanders, again, this series has been tighter than it looks, and it could be very different right now. It's 3-2. It could easily be 3-2 the Islanders the other way. Very
any way that you can win is good. But I'll tell you, I mean, as a fan watching that game, it was watching paint dry. It was a boring, just methodical type of game. And like I said, if the Islanders need to play that way 2 more games to win the series, then they'll do it. And then if it works, that's great. But as just somebody who was looking for an entertaining game, I mean, the only entertainment there was the suspense of who was going to win. But really, it was not a great game per se.
Yeah, it didn't have the same pizzazz as the Columbus Tampa overtime game earlier in the year, earlier in the playoffs. Because the first overtime was, like you said, it was really kind of devoid of chances in a weird way. For an overtime, you expect them. The Islanders were playing harder because they've obviously
both were playing it kind of safe. They really were.
And I mean, and throughout the whole game, I mean, like you're saying, Mike, there was 25 total shots after the second period or something like that. It's ridiculousness. Go ahead.
And Russ, the realization is here that without Braden Point in the lineup, and you can say this about any team, because if they lose their top 2 centers in Stamkos and Point, that they're not going to be the same offensive club that they were with them. But Tampa basically is playing a Barry Trotz type of shutdown defensive game with Cirelli as their number 1 center and everybody else moving up. Gord is the number 2, Carter Verhaeghe. I mean, they don't have. I mean, Kucherov can be isolated by the Islanders without Point there, and it's tough for them to score goals.
Right, and now when Point comes back, and he will. You know what? They're gonna just key on Point, and hopefully they can do a better job on that. But the other thing is, Trotz finally figured it out with the 7D. That was the way to go with this team. And I got to tell you now, this series is still close. I can't tell you definitively Tampa's going to close it out now, because Cooper even looked a little worried in that game. This was because again, we got to remember, Tampa stole one of these games. Yeah. They absolutely stole it when the Islanders completely outplayed them. Yeah. So it wouldn't shock me now if we just go with strict hockey gods that all of a sudden the Islanders get a break in the game, because the Islanders really haven't gotten a break in this series yet.
No, you don't think Dallas felt the same way, right? They wanted to close it out. You have a shot to close a team out. Yeah. You never want to give a team life.
Right.
The 4th win is always the hardest win. I'll disagree with Mike, though. I actually thought it was a pretty compelling game to watch. I thought there were some chances. You had Martin in front when Vasilevsky made a great save.
Well, he ignores Matt Martin, so
my opinion,
he's the catalyst.
Yes,
for that.
yes. Just because you misused him in Toronto, that's on your coach. We get it. Move along, please. Just move along, please.
Not as good as
I thought. Look, the Islanders has been a close series the whole time, and you want to close a team out. You want to eliminate a team because, first of all, anytime you have to play another game and you start getting the beaten and bruised, right? You're having a Dallas team that's now getting an opportunity to rest and to come into that next round a bit more refreshed than you are. And you want it again. You said Tampa stole a game, right? The Islanders have gone toe-to-toe with them and actually have probably had more chances than they've had at times in terms of the games that we've seen so far. So, look, if Point plays, granted, it helps their lineup tremendously, moves everybody else down a little bit, gives them the opportunity to get freed up a little bit. Kucherov is clearly squeezing the stick a bit hard. He can't believe he's missing some of these opportunities. But the problem is the rest of the team really hasn't generated an inordinate amount either. Cirelli is misplaced as a top-line center. He's a good number 2. He's not a top-line center.
Yeah, he's not a guy with the spotlight on him. He had the spotlight on him yesterday. He could have closed out the series, and he couldn't do it.
Well,
but again, that's why Cooper's upset, right? You have a chance to close out a series. You lose, of course you're going to be pissed off. Now you have to basically go through the same rigmarole to get up for another game against a team that you know is going to try to impose their will and play a physical style play against you, also with your number 1 center returning, who they've targeted this whole series, not illegally, but it'll hit him every single time he touches the puck. They're going to hit, and they're going to hit him, and they're going to keep hitting him until he breaks, which is what happened the other day.
And if you think if you think them beating the Islanders is a fait accompli for the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup, you telling me Rick Bowness isn't taking notes here about what they have to do to beat the Lightning? They will go after Point. Corey Perry, Janmark, some of the big forwards for Dallas will lay the body on Point every time he touches.
The Islanders are gonna do it too. They creamed them early on in the game last game, but I do wonder, Cal Clutterbuck's really hurt, guys. Like
he looks
This is a guy.
Boychuk, every time he turned around, something was happening.
Boychuk,
He got hit with a shot in the stomach.
I know.
He didn't block a shot. His skate blade blew up. I mean,
Boychuk had a fairly good game in the role he played in.
Is banged up. There's no question Clutterbuck is banged
and
up.
I feel bad. This guy, if you want to talk about a guy who is giving it all in the bubble, it is Cal Clutterbuck.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And and the other thing about Tampa is this is a team that last year was up 3-2 in the conference finals, right? And to Boston, remember? And was it last? Was it 2 years ago?
They've been up 3-2 two other times in series, and they've lost it. They've lost the last couple years.
No, for sure. Was it?
I'll tell you in a second. Hold on, because I had a guy who's basically Facebook messaged me this yesterday. The one who's paranoid that if the Islanders win, he's going to have to move out of Nassau County because he's a Ranger fan. So this is the type of messages that I'm getting. So
yeah,
that's great.
They led Pittsburgh 3-2 in 2016 and lost.
Yep.
They led the Capitals 3-2 in 2018 and lost in 7 games. And now they're up, obviously, this series 3-1 and lost game 5.
Yeah.
Is Doc Rivers their coach?
Oh, stop.
You want to talk about a guy who's overpaid based upon what his teams have underachieved lately? There's prime candidate number 1.
Leave the Clippers. The Clippers have their own issues. Leave them out.
The Clippers.
I'm going to give Barlamov full props for the slide, guys, at the end, by the way.
Absolutely.
That was amazing. That's the kind of thing. That's like
I think that showed the tension.
Moment.
Yeah, and I think that showed the tension had been relieved in him. Like I think he was kind of tense. Maybe at his play the game before. He played a great game in that game, and I think now he's going to be loose. I think you are seeing. I think you will see the best of Varlamov in this next game.
I think you will too, and he hasn't been the greatest throughout the playoffs, but this is when you're going to see it. I think.
I didn't know they had a slip and slide in Edmonton.
Yeah, he was amazing. I mean, he was amazing, and he's also going to, obviously he's going against Vasilevsky, he's going against Kucherov, he's going against, he knows he's up against it. I mean, there's two of the best players, two of the best Russian players in the world right there. It's a pretty amazing. That's a pretty amazing thing to watch. I think that there's definitely some nervousness on Tampa. I mean, like blowing those series before, they have at times looked like they have it all together, and then the thing about them that they've been good at, they've been very resilient. Now, what I didn't like about Cooper's coaching yesterday, and I'll call him out on this, is what you started with, Russ, which is that when these guys are injured, he's moving guys up. I hate that. I hate breaking up lines that were working. I
agree.
Especially at this point in the game, keep lines together. If you've got two lines that are still together and healthy, play those two lines together. Fill in the other spots.
But the problem is that when you lose your number one center, you can't keep Gord, Coleman, and Goudreau and Cirelli on the second line together, because what are you going to do? Put a fourth line guy in between Palat and Kucherov? You can't do it.
Well, why can't you put Johnson there? That's what I would do. Johnson's filled in that spot before, and it's
they did that at points in the third period, but I don't, because they don't think it was Cirelli was working there. But I don't know. I mean, I
would definitely put Johnson there because he's got experience. He's not going to mess. He's going to set those guys up. He knows his role in that spot, and you have the second line, which is going so well. Don't screw with it. I mean, just it just puts too much weight on your first line. Kucherov should be able to deal without. He should be able to do something without. Those two centers. Obviously, they're two great centers, but come on.
Now,
I got to mention something, Mike, real quick. When I posted yesterday on Facebook my article about Bonus, Alpo Suonen commented, and he was the coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, one of the first European coaches in the NHL, and he talked about how he and Bonus were early Winnipeg Jets coach, and he even talked about earlier than that when Suonen went to coach Moncton when Bonus, I think, was an assistant with Winnipeg and then eventually got the job there in 1989.
That's insane.
Yeah. I
mean, Bonus, literally, the only reason he wouldn't be the coach again is this is like he's too old. He doesn't want to be a head coach.
But 1989, this was an amazing post from like a cool coach, like a lifetime coach.
Yeah,
and I was like, wow.
This for such a long time. It's like
somebody was joking that basically Rick Bonus has been an assistant coach long enough that he's probably coached half the players in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible.
Just touching on something that you wrote about in your blog today, and it ties in with what we missed talking about yesterday, which was sort of a post-mortem on Vegas, is the Fleury situation. I mean, that's one thing. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you look at Vegas right now and what they have to do going into next season, I mean, they've got a sort of a stopgap situation on their defense. They added Martinez, and he's got another year left. But if you look at the bottom half of their blue line, I mean, White Cloud, I think, is a good young defenseman. Shouldn't be, marginalized because of the play that ended up.
Just a play.
It was just a play, but England's going to probably retire. Nick Holden, Russ knows how average he is from his days with the Rangers. And Braden McNabb is maybe a bottom pairing guy. They really need a defenseman or two.
They do need another linchpin defenseman.
Right. And there is talk that if Pietrangelo goes to market, they would be one of the teams that would be there. But I don't know where they get the cap space, especially since if they trade Fleury and they re-sign Leonard, they're probably going to have to retain a couple $1 million on Fleury to move him, because I don't think anybody's going to take him at $7 million. But
why not just give Nick Hague a chance? I mean, he's big and he's physical. Yeah, I mean, they could go that route too, but they will be looking for another defenseman for sure, no matter what.
They're gonna hold money back. I've been told that when they move Fleury, they're gonna keep that money back. And they're gonna move him. I mean, they have to move him. There's no
reason to keep him now.
I mean, I still think that they screwed up by not giving him a couple more games there in the last year.
I mean, do they move Paul Stastny out at $6.5 million? Let Cody Glass play
if somebody were interested, but Paul Stastny's so slow at this point. I don't think he can. He's still great on faceoffs and he does good things on the ice, but he really is slow. I don't think anybody's touching it.
Yeah. He is. I agree. I think that's a tough spot for them to be in. I do. I don't think they can move him.
But I honestly don't. I think if Fleury is a $5 million goalie, somebody would be interested. At $7 million.
So here's the better question, though, and the question we haven't answered yet. Why is Vegas not getting to that next level again? What is lacking?
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's crazy that you're even saying it, right? Because they've only been in existence for 3 years. Still, it's still kind of surprising.
You have to say that this team is a completely different team from the team that made the Cup Final in 28 and 20.
All 3 games have been different. Like last year was a different team. I mean, you're right. I mean, this is more of like a.
This is a front running team. This is a team loaded with talent.
Yeah, right. So that's why you have to ask the question this year, right? Year one was a fun story and an underdog story that nobody expected him to happen. Right. After all the trades they made, getting Stone, getting Pacioretty, moving out assets in terms of prospects to go ahead and get these guys, right. They were supposed. This was the year everybody expected them to take that next step, and everything seemed to be set up for them to take that next step.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
What was the main trait of that Vegas team that made the Cup Final? They were one of the fastest teams in the league.
They played faster than anybody in the league.
And they also had work guys.
Well, they had Gerard Gallant as a coach. That was the big deal. And
Marc-Andre Fleury was.
And he made them work their asses off. He did.
Fleury in the playoffs especially was incredible.
Yeah, but I mean, the Gallant way is what got him there, right? Because they were just a group of guys. I mean, they had good players, but they were a group of players that never played together, and the coach did a great job. There's no question about it.
And not to say that they're a slower team now, but you've got bigger veteran guys like Stone and Pacioretty who are not blazers. I think you do have some speed on this team. You know, guys like Carlson and Tuchs for big guys is a speedy player, but they're a different type of team. And Russ, I do think that they have to start infusing some of those prospects that they drafted, like Glass, like Hague, to bring in some cheaper talent. Because
that's the problem, because they're now a team that instead of being we're moving in the right direction because we're an expansion team, we're a contending Stanley Cup team, and they're not able to utilize all of their talent. Matter of fact, they're utilizing most of the older ones like White Cloud and stuff, and that could be a slippery slope in a few years, because when they start to slip, if they don't have these guys to rely on, then they're going to start hitting the basement. So we'll see. Michael Cohen also asked, is David Quinn safe? He's safe.
Yeah, David Quinn's definitely safe. I got a final little thing that's kind of fun here. And I wanted to get into it. So I saw this on Reddit, and I thought it was really, really, this is the kind of thing that I like. I know you guys, some of you might like it or may not like it, but so with Dallas officially in the final, and you have Dallas, you have the Islanders and Tampa. So those are the 3 final teams. There's a streak here that goes back to 1980 that's being kept complete. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. But now, since 1980, this will be the 40th consecutive Stanley Cup Final with somebody playing in it who played on a team and was teammates with Jaromir Jagr. It's like a crazy. It's just an absolutely insane stat, right? So like,
I like that,
because what you have right now is you have you have this, you have right now.
Was Khudobin his teammate in Boston?
No, say again.
yeah.
Braden Coburn in Philly, right?
Right.
And Andy Green. With
Sure.
so three of them, right? This goes back. It's a crazy list. Like, so I'm going to go through it real fast, just super fast. So the first 4 years are Trottier, because obviously he played in Pittsburgh, right? Then you have 4 years of Messier,
Right.
Then Yuri Radina, then Messier, then you have Jagr himself in 91 and 92. So all those guys played with Jagr, obviously, because they're on his team. Then 93 is JJ Daigneault. Then you go back to Messier in 94. Then Chorsky, Scott Young, Doug Brown, Benoit Hogue, Scott Gomez, Chris Drury, Brendan Shanahan, Jay Pandolfo, Pavel Kabina. Now up to 2006, Mark Recchi, Sean Thornton, Andreas Lilia, Peter Sikora, Chris Versteeg, Mark Recchi again, Willie Mitchell, Dan Carcillo, Willie Mitchell, Chris Versteeg, Matt Cullen, Alex Chason, and finally last year, Braden Shen. So there you have it.
That's pretty good. We might be able to do that with Mike Sillinger too. I mean, we just never tried.
Yeah, that's true. But Jagr, it's just fast. So that's 40 years of Stanley Cup Finals with somebody who played with Jaromir Jagr,
and he's still playing.
There you have it, right? So I don't know. I like that one.
Here's a good one from Funky. Since 1980, Mike has owned a gray shirt or sweater. That's probably true.
I'm going pre-1980.
This is blue.
It's blue.
Yeah, it doesn't look blue.
You're not colorblind, Mike?
Huh?
Are you colorblind, or do you see colors?
Oh, this is blue.
Just checking. It looks gray to me.
It's gray.
But I don't see colors. I have a tough time with colors,
Blue.
It might have been blue 20 years ago, but in the wash, it's turned gray.
It's a bluish gray.
This shirt is only about 6 months old. Sorry.
There you go. All right. That's all we have for today, guys. No game tonight, obviously. Enjoy your evening off. I know I won't. Remember, without the buzz, just hockey.
You have your family, Eck.
I know, but I'm sad that hockey's coming to an end. Without the buzz, it's just hockey. We'll talk